Picture this: a giant elephant standing in the middle of the jungle, wearing a look of concentration so intense that it seems as though he's discovered the secret to the universe. His name is Horton, and he's not just any ordinary elephant. Oh no! He's a creature of conviction, kindness, and, well, occasionally a bit of misunderstanding. But it's exactly these qualities that make Horton a hero. Now, you might be thinking, what's so special about an elephant who hears voices? Well, let me tell you, this isn't your typical tale of elephants. Horton isn't just hearing any regular voices. He's hearing the voices of tiny creatures, so tiny that they exist on a speck of dust. And when you hear that, you might imagine Horton thinking, that's crazy. Am I hearing things? Is it just a bad batch of jungle fruit? But no, Horton is different. Horton is an elephant who believes in the power of kindness, and he's about to embark on a heartwarming journey that shows us all what it truly means to care for something, no matter how small. Let's dive into this whimsical world created by Dr. Seuss, where the improbable happens and one voice can make all the difference. The mighty elephant with a big heart. It all begins with Horton, our gentle giant. He's strolling through the jungle when he hears something unusual, a tiny sound like a faint call for help. What's that? Horton wonders. He peers down and spots a small speck of dust floating in the air. Now, any other animal would have brushed it off. After all, it's just a speck of dust. But Horton isn't like the other animals. No! He listens carefully, and as he stands there perplexed, he hears it again. We are here. We are here. To anyone else, that would sound absurd, just the wind or a trick of the ears. But not to Horton. Horton has a big heart and an even bigger sense of responsibility. He realizes that this speck of dust is not just a speck of dust at all. It's a tiny world, a whole society of tiny creatures living on that speck, and they are calling for help. The inhabitants of this speck, known as the Whos, live in a world that's as small as, well, a speck of dust. They're so tiny that without Horton's big ears to listen, they could go completely unnoticed. The Whos, led by their mayor, are in danger of being destroyed because no one believes they exist. But Horton, with his unwavering belief in kindness and the importance of every single being, takes it upon himself to protect them. Horton's unwavering belief in the Whos. Now, here's the thing about Horton. He's not just hearing voices. He's committed. When Horton hears the Whos calling, he doesn't just shrug and move on. He immediately declares that he will protect them. A person's a person, no matter how small, he says, and it's this motto that drives the entire story. Horton's belief is simple yet profound. To him, every being has value, no matter how tiny or insignificant they may seem. But of course, not everyone shares Horton's conviction. The other animals in the jungle laugh at him, calling him crazy. What? You're saying there are tiny people on that speck of dust? You've gone mad, they say. The more Horton tries to explain, the more the animals mock him. Even his best friend, an ostrich named Maisie, tells him to forget about it. But Horton refuses to back down. He's not going to let anyone or anything destroy the tiny world of the Whos. And this, dear reader, is where the magic happens. Horton's courage doesn't waver, even in the face of ridicule. He becomes determined to prove that the Whos exist, even if the rest of the jungle won't listen. As he cradles the speck of dust gently in his trunk, he marches on with one goal in mind: to make sure that the Whos are heard and their home is saved. The jungle laughter and the struggle to be heard. Here's where the story takes an interesting twist. While Horton is standing up for the Whos, the rest of the jungle animals are doing everything they can to stop him. They try all sorts of things to get Horton to stop believing in the speck, from shaking him to shaking the dust speck itself. They even try making fun of Horton, calling him names like Horton the Hopeless or Horton the Crazy. But Horton remains unfazed. His love for the Whos is unwavering. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%, he says, and that becomes his battle cry. Horton is fighting not just for the Whos' survival, but for the idea that every single voice, no matter how small, deserves to be heard. It's this fierce belief in the power of one voice, one person, that carries the story forward. The other animals, though, don't get it. They keep insisting that Horton's hearing is just a figment of his imagination, that there's no way anyone could live on such a tiny speck. They threaten to destroy the speck by any means necessary, but Horton refuses to give up. He keeps holding on to his belief that the Whos exist, and that's when things get really interesting. The Whos speak up. As Horton's fight continues, it becomes clear that the Whos themselves need to be heard. So, the mayor of Whoville gathers all the Whos together and urges them to shout as loudly as they can to make their voices heard, to save their home. Every Who in Whoville, every last one, yells with all their might. But despite their efforts, the rest of the jungle animals still can't hear them. It's no use, they say. There's no one there. But then a small Who, a little child, raises their voice and shouts. And just like that, the jungle animals hear it. The tiniest voice in the world makes a difference. The speck of dust, once invisible to everyone else, is now seen and heard by all. This, my friends, is the magic of the story. It's not just about Horton standing up for the Whos. It's about how the Whos, even though they're so small, can make a difference when they all work together. Every voice counts, and every voice matters. It's a lesson in unity, in the power of belief, and in the importance of never giving up, no matter how big the odds seem. The big moment of triumph. At the end of it all, the jungle animals realize that Horton was right. The Whos are real, and their home is saved. The speck of dust, once overlooked, is now safe and protected, all because Horton never stopped believing. It's a victory not just for Horton and the Whos, but for the power of kindness, courage, and the belief that even the smallest voices can make the biggest impact. In the final pages of Horton Hears a Who, the entire jungle comes together to celebrate the Whos and their newfound visibility. Horton, who's been the voice of reason throughout, stands tall and proud, knowing that his belief in the Whos and his willingness to protect them has made all the difference. Final thoughts. So, what's the takeaway from Horton Hears a Who? Well, it's a story that teaches us a lot of valuable lessons, but the biggest one is this: every voice matters. In a world where it's easy to feel insignificant, where the noise of the crowd often drowns out the whispers of those who need to be heard, Horton reminds us that we all have something important to say. Whether you're as big as an elephant or as small as a speck of dust, your voice counts. This book is a celebration of kindness, determination, and the belief that the world can be a better place if we all listen to each other. Horton's courage to stand up for the Whos, no matter how tiny they are, reminds us that we, too, should stand up for what we believe in, even when the world around us doesn't understand. Dr. Seuss has once again delivered a timeless story that resonates with readers of all ages. It's whimsical, it's funny, and it's full of heart. Horton Hears a Who is more than just a children's book. It's a call to action, a reminder that the world needs each and every one of us, no matter how small we may feel. So, next time you hear a voice calling for help, don't be afraid to listen. You never know. The smallest voice might just change the world. Stay tuned for more enlightening content. Head over to www.mybooksummary.com. Don't forget to subscribe and share the magic with friends. And let's grow together through the power of books and interesting stories.